So in this video, I've bundled the top 100 most common job interview questions and answers. I've reviewed countless videos, blogs and articles to see which interview answers already proved to be effective. And then I structured my answers accordingly. Now in this video, you won't be bombarded with endless theory or generic answers. It's a straightforward and complete overview of answers to questions like: can you tell me about yourself? Are you willing to work overtime? Why is there a gap in your employment? What are your salary expectations? But I will also show you what to say when you cannot answer an interview question, how you should introduce yourself, or how to reduce job interview stress. And that way you will receive all the necessary information to pass your interview. Now, if you want to skip certain Q&As, you can check the timestamps in the description down below. Now, before we start with the first question, I want you to know that it took me months to create this video. So if it's helpful, a like is greatly appreciated. And if you think a particular answer requires improvement, don't hesitate and leave a comment with a better or improved version down below. That way we can help each other succeed. Also, don't get overwhelmed with all the Q&As and information in this video. Keep in mind that most people don't even prepare for an interview. So everything you learn or remember is one step closer to that dream job. Alright, I would like to start off with a general question: how to introduce yourself in a job interview. Step number 1. Printing and taking your cover letter, resume and the job description to your interview. You'll feel more comfortable if you take these documents with you. Why so? Well, you can highlight important information, so you can have a quick sneak peek if you forget or want to address something. And that way you will come across as punctual, organized and well prepared. Step number 2. Dress appropriately for your interview. Appearance plays a significant role in leaving a good first impression. How you dress will represent in part who you are and whether you take the opportunity seriously. Now, what you need to wear depends on the position and company culture. Wear something formal, like you see right now, if you apply for a job as a bank clerk, accountant or investment banker. Or something more casual if you have an interview at a startup company, an IT environment, or when you apply for a manual labor job. Step number 3. Make sure to arrive 30 minutes before the interview starts. That way you avoid being late, and perhaps you need to use the toilet before your interview. You never know when nature calls. And being early also shows that you are punctual. Step number 4. You will probably need to check in at the reception. Step forward and introduce yourself by saying, "Hi, my name is," and then your name, "and I'm here for the 12 p.m. interview with," and then the recruiter's name. You will then be asked to wait while the recruiter comes to meet you. Now, while you are waiting, don't check your phone, but instead read your documents and sit up straight. And when the recruiter arrives to greet you, you stand up, smile and offer to shake hands. If COVID-19 is not an issue anymore, obviously, give a firm handshake, make eye contact and introduce yourself by saying, "I'm," and then your name, "It's a pleasure to meet you," or "It's nice to meet you in person." You will then be guided to the interview room. Once arrived, you should wait for the recruiter to invite you to sit, and then take the seat they gesture to. And this is the proper etiquette as part of the introduction. Okay, next question. Can you tell me something about yourself? Now, this question has many forms, but one of the most popular ones is, tell me something about yourself. So you can start off by saying, "Thank you for inviting me to be interviewed for this position today." And then we divide our answer into 3 sections, starting off with the past. Well, I started my career as a position 3 years ago with XYZ company, where I performed task 1 and assisted with task 2 on a weekly basis. In that role, a major accomplishment I'm most proud of was that I was able to, and then you mention a certain situation, within a time span, by doing X. Now this resulted into an accomplishment. And then you mention the present. Currently, I'm a 3rd-year student with great interest in website design and digital marketing, which brought me to University XYZ, where I'm working on my bachelor's degree. And at last, the future. Although I have a great passion for web-based development, I find joy in social interactions and thrive working with a dynamic group of people to achieve very specific goals. And that's why I'm excited to be part of your team and help you with, and you can mention some tasks listed in the job description. Now, don't talk about your personal or family life unless they ask for it, and do emphasize the skills and experiences that match with those listed in the job description. Okay, question number 3. How did you hear about this position? If you are a passive job seeker, you can say, "Although I wasn't actively looking for a job change, I read an interesting article on a certain website about a certain subject. From then on, my curiosity brought me to your LinkedIn's vacancy section, where I found a job advertisement. After reviewing the job description, I felt an urge to apply and learn more about the job opportunity. Or when you are an active job seeker, you can say, I'm actively job searching right now, and I found your job posting on LinkedIn while searching for a title, a skill, or a company. I reviewed the job description and task 1 and task 2 immediately caught my attention, so I applied to learn more about the job role and see if it's a good match. Now don't answer this question by saying that you are not sure or that you don't remember it, and don't make it sound like you are a desperate job seeker. Do show, however, that you are being careful in your job search. Question number 4. Can you walk us through your resume? Sure. So during my time at University XYZ, I started my career working as a salesman, selling a certain product for a company called Company XYZ. Now, there are 2 key things that I've learned from this experience. The first thing that I learned was that direct sales as a career path requires an extremely extroverted personality and sales mentality, which does not suit my profile. The second thing, however, is that I learned how to trigger emotional value and connection to a product, instead of just seeing product as purely functional. Now with selling product, I could weave in the experience of gardening and the gardening memories that were involved, which really made an impact on the buying behavior of consumers. And these experiences actually led me to my marketing internship at XYZ company, later in my college career. I knew I didn't want to be directly in the sales side, but that I was, and still am, really interested in the emotional connection and how that drives customer purchasing decisions. At XYZ company, I collaborated with 2 webmasters, 3 content managers and an SEO copywriter to create digital marketing campaigns. And our well-versed target advertisements increased user engagement across XYZ company's social media channels by 20% in a certain year. I find that both of these experiences, direct sales and marketing, prepared me for performing task 1 and task 2 listed in the job description. Now these are the do's and don'ts. Don't read what is actually on the resume. Don't list your experiences like, first I did this, then I did that. Don't spend time talking about activities, skills or experiences that are not relevant to the job you are applying for. Do fuse or connect experiences together to build a narrative. Do give a little summary of each experience. Do start at the beginning towards the present day, unless instructed otherwise. And do give a closing statement that is positive. Okay, question number 5. Why should we hire you? Well, as I understand it, you are looking for someone with at least 5 years of experience in a particular industry, who can use a software and do task 1 listed in the job description. As an experienced job title with an emphasis in subject, I qualify and can contribute to your team right away. For example, a major achievement I'm most proud of is that I was able to complete a particular project within time span by doing X. Furthermore, I've always wanted to work in an organization like this because of, and then you mention some reasons. Now don't mention vague strengths without supporting examples, and do make connections between your strengths and those highlighted in the job description. Okay, question number 6. Why do you want to work here? Well, I noticed that company XYZ is well established in the industry and offers multiple reputable products such as product 1 and product 2. Now, although company XYZ's reputation is certainly a factor, I'm genuinely interested in getting more involved in the technological side of product X. Now, as an experienced job title with an emphasis in subject, I know I can bring value to the team. Now, don't give an answer that lacks any detail or sincerity. And do show genuine interest by mentioning something unique about the company. Okay, question number 7. Why did you leave your last or current job? Now, if it's because of further growth, you can say, well, I'd been with company XYZ for a number of years, and I wanted to experience a new working environment to continue growing. And if it's because of a layoff, you can say, unfortunately, company XYZ lost a major client in year, so cost-cutting measures were implemented. And that resulted in some positions getting eliminated. Now, despite this unfortunate situation, my former employer will happily provide a good reference. And if you were fired, you can answer, well, after some management changes, it became clear that new expectations for my job role didn't line up with my qualifications. So the new manager eventually brought in someone from a different department who had more technical know-how. Now, this experience reinforced my interest and talent for the original role, which focuses more on a particular subject. So lately I've been engaged in researching companies and positions where I can use my strengths for greater contribution. Now don't put down or say anything negative about your ex-employer, colleagues or clients, and do focus on personal development, career growth or new challenges reasons. Okay, question number 8. What is your weakness? Well, I've always been an ambitious person that regularly comes up with new ideas for improving a particular subject. I have a tendency to share them right away because these ideas make me feel energized. However, what I've learned over the years is to be cognizant of the fact that some ideas work out and some simply don't. So instead of being impulsive, I try to focus more on filtering and prioritizing because that will lead to greater efficiency for everyone involved. Now don't use words like perhaps, maybe, or probably, or say that you don't have a weakness or that you've never thought about it, because that will only prove your lack of awareness. And do mention a weakness that can be fixed, corrected, or improved on. Okay, question number 9. What are your strengths? Well, besides my proficiency in skill 1, skill 2, and skill 3 listed in the job description, one thing that I feel makes me stand out is my ability to analyze complex data, prioritize, and then communicate the most important pieces of information to different audiences. Now, as a third-year student, I've already received several compliments from my teachers for being a highly effective communicator, both written and verbally. And that's because I've always put an emphasis on clearly delivering messages, so there's no room for misunderstanding or inefficiencies. Now, don't use strengths in disguise, like I'm kind of a workaholic or a perfectionist. And again, don't use words like perhaps, maybe, or probably. You are a professional and know your abilities. And do grab your printed job description and mention how some of the highlighted competencies link or relate to your strengths. Okay, next question. How do you handle stress? Oh, I think I actually handle it very well. A recent example of this is when my former manager asked me to deliver a presentation to around an X number of people with just 36 hours notice. And to alleviate the pressure, I broke the presentation down in smaller pieces. Firstly, I identified the objective of the event and the participants' goals and needs. After that, I wrote a script and created slides using a particular software. I then liaised with IT support to test the audio and visual equipment. And on the day of the presentation, I rehearsed a couple of times until I felt prepared. Now the result was, even though I felt nervous, the presentation was well received, and management requested me to deliver another presentation on a particular topic. Besides the fact that I felt great about what happened, it taught me that I am capable of handling stressful situations when I simply break a challenging project up into pieces. Now don't dwell or say anything negative about yourself, and do mention a real-life example. You can think of a project, exam, or presentation. Okay, question number 11. What motivates you? As an aspiring job title, I've always been interested in consumer behavior. For example, recently I read Robert B. Cialdini's book, The Psychology of Persuasion, to learn more about effective sales strategies with the purpose of increasing conversions. The ability to influence consumers into saying yes to something to which ideally they would have said no is my greatest motivator to apply for this sales position. Now don't confuse the interviewer by sharing too much information. And do show genuine passion in your field of interest. You can mention a book, an event you've attended, or documentaries you've watched. Okay, question number 12. Where do you see yourself in 5 years of time? Okay, so in the first 2 to 3 years, I see myself becoming an established job title at company XYZ. I plan to immerse myself in learning the ins and outs of the business, understand areas that require improvement, and seek for opportunities to make the marketing team work as efficiently as possible. For the remaining years, I see myself as being an all-round marketing specialist and liaison to extended departments, including communication, sales, and operations. Now don't focus on a different job title or career opportunity. Do focus on the journey you hope to take and show that you are a dependable employee who is staying here for the long term. Alright, awesome that you are still watching. So next up we have 10 behavioral and 11 situational interview questions. Some behavioral questions could be situational and vice versa. For example, the first one, can you tell me about a time you made a mistake? It seems situational, or it is, but the underlying reason for asking this question is, what did you do to solve the mistake? Which is behavioral. So to answer the can you tell me about a time you made a mistake question, I would like to use the CALL method, which stands for context, action, results, and learnings. So let me show you how that works. Sure, so when I first became a marketing assistant, I was eager to make a good impression. However, I ended up taking on more work than I could manage, from compiling and distributing statistical data to executing marketing campaigns. While I was actually solely responsible for running my first ever digital marketing event. Upon talking to my marketing manager, He made me realize that I need to prioritize and delegate more work to my colleagues. I have since applied this new learning to all of my marketing activities and use Todoist, Notion, and Google Calendar to improve my workflow and get things done. This experience also taught me that it is okay to say no, delegate, or ask for assistance. Since then, I've received recognition and was praised multiple times for my personal growth. Now don't dwell on your mistake or blame a previous colleague, teammate, or ex-employer. And don't share that huge mistake that almost caused the company to go bankrupt. So do share this one-time mistake and what you've learned from it. Okay, question number 14. How well do you adapt to new situations? As you can see on my resume, I had quite some past experiences, of which some of them required me to embrace and adapt to changes in the workplace. For example, one of the reasons I managed to develop a certain project at company XYZ is due to my ability to embrace challenges. Now, these include finding diverse and unexpected solutions to problem 1 and problem 2 to reach a particular goal. Again, don't dwell or say anything negative about yourself, and do share an experience that shows that you adapt well to new situations. Question number 15. What would you do in your first 30, 60 to 90 days in this position? Within 30 days, I want to complete the internal training courses, understand all business processes, and meet all stakeholders involved. I also find it important to really know my direct colleagues and to be comfortable working with them. Within 60 days, I plan to tackle easy to accomplish goals and easy to solve problems to get things done. I also want to learn all the necessary details about company XYZ and the industry to see where the opportunities lie. And within 90 days, I want to be fully integrated into the job role, and I plan to meet all of the objectives I have set or have been set for me. Now don't stress about how detailed or extensive your answer needs to be. You can keep it short, concise, and to the point. Do incorporate job responsibilities you heard throughout the interview or read in the job description. Okay, question number 16. Tell me about a time you went above and beyond. When I was a job title at company XYZ, I collaborated with a 5-person marketing team to complete and present a report focused on a few competitors in the industry. I was in charge of analyzing the competitors' social media presence, strategies, and go-to platforms. So once I completed my part, I noticed that my colleague was trying to catch up, but was struggling due to personal reasons. And that's when I requested a short meeting so we could discuss the progress so far and find solutions to the problem. During that meeting, I offered him help so we could complete the report on time. The result was, even though I worked overtime hours for a couple of days, that the presentation was well received and my colleague was extremely thankful for my help. And our team lead gave me a shout out at our next meeting. What I've learned from this experience is that unforeseen situations happen when working on team projects. Therefore, it's key to making a habit of checking in with one another to reduce stress, improve efficiency, and more importantly, finish the project. Now don't be negative and say things like, I had to deal with an annoying customer, or my ex-colleague never finishes his task, so I had to go above and beyond. Do explain how you went above and beyond, including the results and learnings. Okay, question number 17. How do you stay focused while doing a simple repetitive task? Well, I believe that simple repetitive or routine tasks are part of every job. In order for me to stay focused and motivated, I draw my energy from a good workplace atmosphere, a hardworking team, or simply being helpful to others. I also visualize the finish line and gratification afterwards. These are important factors that help me go through particularly boring or monotonous tasks. Now, besides that, from what I read in the job description, being a job title at company XYZ does not seem to be a repetitive job at all. For example, task 1 and task 2 listed underneath paragraph 2 seem very challenging and interesting to me. At least, that's how I feel about the job role. Now don't say that you prefer routine tasks over learning new and challenging tasks. And do come across as positive, flexible, and motivated to take on any task. Alright, question number 18. Have you ever been on a team where someone is not pulling their weight? I have experienced this situation a few times in college, but over the years I have learned how to deal with underperforming team members. For example, in my last semester, I was assigned to collaborate in a 4-person team to write a business plan for company XYZ. Each member was assigned to complete approximately 25% of the report, which had to be uploaded on Google Drive 1 week before the final deadline. However, it became apparent that one member could not finish his portion of the report. I then arranged a short one-on-one meeting and asked what was holding him back. I also explained my concerns in regards to the time frame. Due to personal reasons, he felt overwhelmed by the workload and was afraid to address this issue with our team. As a result, I revised the report with the entire team, and we managed to submit the report on time. Now, what I've learned from this experience is to always check upon the well-being of a slacking team member. Check the project status and find a solution to the problem. Now, don't put your focus on an underperforming colleague, but instead inform the interviewer what you did to address and solve the problem for a positive outcome. And do show your ability to ignore negative emotions and your focus on being productive. And if possible, provide an example that shows your empathy and understanding of someone's problem. Okay, question number 19. How do you deal with unresponsive colleagues? Oh, I think I can handle it quite well. A recent example of this is when I was working as a job role at XYZ company. I reached out to a colleague multiple times via instant message and email concerning an urgent project at work, but I didn't get a response. We had to plan, style and develop site content for an upcoming marketing campaign, with only 1 week remaining. And with such a tight deadline before the rollout, even a 1-day delay would add more pressure to the situation. After all, it was my responsibility to publish it on deadline day. Now, due to COVID-19, all colleagues worked remotely, so talking in person was not an option. I then scheduled a time in his calendar to arrange a Zoom meeting. When I finally managed to speak to him, he apologized for the inconvenience, and he assured me to keep in touch for the remaining days. Now, although my colleagues' contributions to the project were almost nil, I made the decision to wait until after the project. I then politely asked him what I could do differently to reach him quickly and anticipate inaccuracies. Apparently, some personal issues and an overflowing inbox made him feel overwhelmed. My colleague appreciated my understanding and willingness to go the extra mile. Now, what I've learned from this experience is to alleviate negative emotions, remain calm, and address the issue after project completion. I'm glad I did so because my colleague was going through a very tough time in his personal life. Now, don't ramble or speak negatively about a former employer or coworker when describing the situation, and do explain your methods for dealing with unresponsive colleagues. Okay, question number 20. Can you tell me about a time you solved a difficult problem? When I was a job title at company XYZ, I was responsible for webshop's online customer support. During Black Friday, when usually 40% of our users make an online purchase, the payment system suddenly went down. My inbox was flooded with emails, but I decided to remain calm and use my knowledge and common sense to solve the problem. To begin with, I decided to call our payment provider to make sure they were actually aware of the issue. Unfortunately, they couldn't provide any clarity about the issue or when the problem would be resolved. I then wrote an email template to inform and reassure each customer that the payment issue would resolve as soon as possible. In the meantime, I quickly configured a different payment method, which allows customers to check out directly with PayPal. I then relayed this info to the customers. Now, although a decline in sales was noticeable, I was able to quickly anticipate and provide an alternative which minimized our losses. And as a result, our team lead gave me a shout out at our next department meeting. Now, what I've learned from this experience is to never rely on just one payment provider or wait for them to resolve a crucial problem. In the end, it took our payment provider a whole day to fix a bug in their system. Now, don't pick a common problem and avoid cliches, such as I'm an excellent problem solver, solution focused, or visionary. And do pick a difficult problem that you will most likely face in the position you are applying for and explain how you would solve it. Question number 21. What would you do if you didn't get on with someone in your team? I would try to figure out a way to get along with this colleague. I could try to change some of my own behavior when he or she is around, show some empathy, and see if I notice any change in behavior. Or I could directly clear the air and say something along the lines of, I must have said something wrong in the past. Is there anything I can do to improve our working relationship? And if that doesn't work out, I would stop focusing on my coworker's behavior or what he or she did or didn't do. From that point on, I would focus on clear communication, getting the assignment back on track, and completing it. Now, do share your willingness to find common ground by sharing some of your methods and techniques to rebuild a positive working relationship. And don't say you would report the coworker to your boss. The interviewer wants to know how you would deal with a difficult coworker, not how you would let somebody else solve the problem. Question number 22. What is your tolerance to ambiguity? Honestly, my tolerance for ambiguity is high. In my most recent job role, almost every job assignment was vague to start with. I had no idea what metrics or KPIs my manager wanted me to include. It was my duty to bring clarity to the scope, defining the planning and executing the deliverable. In the end, the more ambiguous the assignment was, the more rewarding it felt when I delivered. Now, don't say that you have a low tolerance for ambiguity. Interviewers will most likely interpret that you are the type of employee that needs a lot of guidance and step-by-step instructions. And do show that you can bring exactness and specificity. Provide an example that shows that you proactively take initiative in uncertain or unclear work situations. Okay, question number 23. Can you tell me about a time or a goal you failed to achieve? Let me think for a couple of seconds. I remember when I first became a project manager and I was eager to make a good impression. I was responsible for managing a construction project and informed the client that my team was able to finish the project within 1 month. Right off the bat, we experienced significant problems because of poor contractor management, lack of resources, shortage of labor, planning and scheduling deficiencies. Our team had to work overtime to prevent further delays. As a result, the project had a delay of 1 week. The client was satisfied with the end result, but clearly disappointed about the project delay. Now, what I've learned from this experience is to be more conservative in my predictions to the client. It's better to meet client expectations by including a time margin of approximately 20% of the total project estimation. Now, by doing so, I can avoid disappointment when the team fails to deliver on time. Now, don't say that you've never failed and don't avoid giving an answer. And do provide a real-life example and tell the interviewer what you've learned from the failure and what you would do differently in the future. And do show that you take accountability and responsibility for the outcome. Okay, question number 24. Tell me about a time you took action to resolve a problem. So, when I was working as a job title at store XYZ, I had a customer who came in to pick a pair of jeans he reserved by phone earlier that day. I first checked the inventory management system, but the item was displayed as out of stock. I then asked my colleague, who explained that the item had accidentally been put back on the shelf and was purchased by another customer. So once I heard about the mistake, I took a couple of seconds to think about a suitable solution. I then went back in store, calmly explained the situation, and clearly communicated the next steps for an appropriate solution. I then called one of our other stores and asked the branch manager to set aside the same article. So after closing time, I picked up the order and brought it to the customer's home address. As a result, the jeans were delivered free of charge on the same day. And a month later, I noticed that this customer left a 5-star Google review and mentioned how much he appreciated the service. Now, what I've learned from this experience is to be upfront and address the customer's concern adequately. And from that point on, I had the opportunity to redress the situation. Now, don't criticize others' behavior, but instead, provide an example that shows your ability to handle or resolve challenging or unexpected situations at work. Okay, question number 25. Tell me about a time when your workload was heavy. So, when I was a job title at company XYZ, one of my colleagues was about to go on maternity leave and no replacement was hired. I requested a list of all the projects she was working on and shadowed her for 2 days straight to ensure a smooth transition. Now, over the course of 6 months, my workload doubled. However, I remained calm, prioritized tasks, and focused on one task at a time. From 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., I spent time on new projects, and for the remainder of the day, I resumed my other projects. Now, this daily routine proved to be efficient. I managed to finish all projects on time and attained a constant 95% client satisfaction level based on conducted surveys. Now, what I've learned from a sudden heavy workload is that organizational habits and a daily routine are key to stay on track. Also, I noticed that busy times are an opportunity to excel and stand out. Now, don't blame a heavy workload on mismanagement, lazy or unqualified colleagues, and do provide a positive and constructive answer that proves you take accountability and responsibility for the situation. Alright, question number 26. What were your responsibilities at your last job? Actually, I haven't been employed before, as I have only recently graduated from University XYZ. But the most recent responsibility I had was presenting a group project in front of 200 other students. So first, I identified the objective of the presentation with the audience knowledge level in mind. I used Google Docs to write a script and Keynote's easy and intuitive tools to create the slides. On the final day, I got up early and liaised with the school's janitor to test the audio and visual equipment. I then rehearsed a couple of times until I felt comfortable using the AV tools. The presentation was well received and we got the highest grade of the year. According to our teacher, the presentation was clear, concise and informative. Now, this experience taught me that I am capable of taking full responsibility for a project's outcome. Now, don't simply list your previous or current job responsibilities like you do in your resume, but instead provide a real-life example, tell a story and inform the interviewer about the results. Now, don't lie about your job responsibilities or qualifications. Keep in mind that hiring managers will check your references and browse through the internet to gather more information. Okay, question number 27. Can you tell me about the time you had to learn something quickly? Sure. So when I first began my career in web development, I started as a temporary employee at an employment agency. I was placed on a 6-month project where I had to learn a lot of web developer duties and responsibilities in a short period of time. These include, but we are not limited to, installing and testing applications for website XYZ, troubleshooting and fixing bugs in Adobe Experience Manager, and staying up to date on technology. I utilized all internal training resources and materials that were at my disposal. And for sudden, unexpected technical problems, I browsed the internet and watched YouTube tutorials the night before. Now, these methods allowed me to learn the technology within the allotted time. And most importantly, it gave me that sense of accomplishment early on in my role. Now, do share a suitable story that shows your willingness to adapt to new changes in the workplace and excitement to learn new skills. And don't complain about a situation where you had to learn something quickly. Okay, question number 28. Tell me about a time you had to meet a tight deadline. Let me think. For example, as a job title, I had to migrate content from Sitecore to Adobe Experience Manager with a set deadline of 1 month. Although this sounded like a simple copy and paste task, the steps involved are understanding the CMS architectures, collecting documents, and creating approximately 300 new pages. Now, once I started my daily routine using Google Calendar and Trello, I noticed that the plan our team had discussed earlier required some adjustments, or else I would not meet the deadline I was given. I then rescheduled a short one-on-one meeting with the manager. I clearly outlined the steps I would need to take and the expected time required to properly finish each one of them. As a result, the manager pushed the timeline back by an additional week. With the extra time, I was actually able to complete the task a couple days earlier and guarantee a high quality service. Now, do give a proper reasoning to why a certain deadline seemed realistic or not, and show the steps you took to meet the deadline. And do focus on qualifications that relate to time management, setting goals, communication, working under pressure, self-motivation, attention to detail, etc. And again, don't complain about previous tight deadlines. Okay, question number 29. What is your greatest achievement? My greatest achievement was during my previous position as a job title at company XYZ. At the time, 2 of my colleagues were responsible for content management, and that includes planning, styling, and developing content for a website. However, one went on maternity leave, and the other resigned unexpectedly, and no replacement was hired. For the time being, I took the initiative and volunteered to take on the role as a content manager. I learned how to use Photoshop and Adobe Experience Manager by following internal training courses and using online resources. I started with the so-called low-hanging fruit and reached out to some of my colleagues at the headquarters to assist me with the more complicated tasks. Although I wasn't able to finish each and every task on time, during those 6 months I was able to troubleshoot technical problems, offer advice on maintenance issues, and keep website up and running. As a result, I was praised by management and received a contract extension. So what I've learned is that difficult times lead to new opportunities. In this case, my salary increased, I learned new things, and I'm excited to share my knowledge with new hires. It also boosted my confidence, which made me feel ready to take on an active role in the content management team. Now, don't share a long-winded story or possible achievements. These are signs of being unprepared and undecisive. Do share a recent or relevant achievement. This could be a successful presentation, achieving sales targets, taking on additional responsibilities, etc. Now, don't feel like you come across as unlikable or obnoxious when answering this question. Okay, question number 30. What is your ideal work environment? My ideal work environment can be described as fast-paced, collaborative, and structured to expand. I've worked in a variety of environments, and I adapt well to most. However, I'm not just looking to fill a position, I'm looking for a career. I applied to this position because of the long-term opportunities abound. Now, after visiting the company website, I noticed a startup culture and an environment that is experiencing rapid growth. I enjoy working in an environment where everyone is dedicated to work hard and encouraged to grow. Does that match up with the way you would characterize company XYZ's work environment? Now, don't say that your ideal work environment is dependent on the coworkers you will be working with. I mean, the interviewer can't foresee the chemistry between you and their employees. Now, do call out things about the company culture that you like, and do emphasize your flexible personality. Flexibility is a valuable personality trait because it describes the extent to which a person can cope with changes, difficult circumstances, and find solutions to sudden issues. Okay, question number 31. How many hours per week do you normally work? In my previous employment, I worked both 40 and 50-hour work weeks. The exact number was dependent on the workload. On occasion, I've spent long hours completing my duties, so I didn't have to bring work home to do over the weekend. Work-life balance is important to me, so I try to work as effectively and efficiently as possible to successfully complete my projects. Once a month, I reflect on my performance so I can adapt my work style if necessary. Now, don't limit your answer to a fixed number, but instead, focus on your willingness to work both a typical work week as well as long hours to meet deadlines. Now, do research about the company and industry. Some employers stick to a 40-hour week where everyone goes home on time. But in some industries, like for example finance and tech, it's not uncommon to work 50 or 60 hours per week. Okay, question number 32. What is the last book you read? The last book I read was Atomic Habits by James Clear. It is certainly my favorite book on forming the right habits and ditching the bad ones. Basically, the author encourages you to lose unproductive habits and start adopting productive ones. The idea is that 1% change each day adds up to long-term success. The book also covers other topics, like adopting better systems rather than setting objectives, focus on identity rather than outcomes. But the idea of being 1% better every day really stood out to me. As a job title, I applied the power of compounding, and this technique tripled my productivity. Now, don't feel obliged to mention your last read. Choose a book that you actually liked and learned something from. Do explain why you chose that particular book, and briefly summarize the book to prove your understanding. Try to highlight some of the learnings that you've adopted in your daily life. Okay, question number 33. What did you dislike about your last job? There wasn't much that I disliked about my last job. In fact, my former employer was very supportive and we've achieved great things as a team. However, I would like to make a comment about the outdated systems and equipment. I often found myself frustrated by the limitations of our CMS and company laptops. The lack of editorial control, slow performance, and monitor freezing issues really reduced my work efficiency. Now, don't mention a dislike for something that may be common at the company you're applying to. For example, in the sample answer, I point out my former company's system and equipment limitations. However, you need to make sure that they don't use the exact same tools. Now, do focus on what over who. There's no reason to speak negatively about your former boss or colleagues. That will only raise uncertainty, because the interviewer will never know who's right or wrong. So keep it positive and constructive by focusing on trivial things. Okay, question number 34. Can you describe yourself in 3 words? I would describe myself as witty and communicative, both written and verbally. As a keen writer, I enjoy writing those quick little funny remarks and find value in exchanging thoughts and ideas with others. I'm also someone that is dependable. Being consistent in behavior and performance is something that my readers, former employers, and colleagues really appreciated about me. Now, those with little to no working experience, like freshers or recent graduates, can, for example, provide an honest and humble answer like, the first 3 words I would use to describe myself are work in progress or keen to learn. As a recent graduate, I feel there's still so much to learn and I'm looking forward to the journey. Now, don't be too timid or show too much confidence. And don't use business jargon and cliches such as I am loyal, a hard worker, or a people person. Do tell them exactly who you are, that you understand your personality, and something that differentiates you from other candidates. Now, do tie in a few attributes that make you a good fit for the open position. For example, if you apply for a customer service or sales position, you can say energetic or communicative. Okay, question number 35. How would you describe your leadership style? Well, I believe that my default leadership style if I have one, leans towards a coaching leadership style. I enjoy the consider this approach and unlock talent's potential. However, I believe that different situations require a different management style. Do you mind me giving an example? Okay, so during my most recent employment, I was able to adopt a laissez-faire leadership style. I had an outstanding group of skilled and self-motivated colleagues that I could trust. I surely did monitor team performance and occasionally provided feedback, but I knew that micromanagement or a democratic approach would only lower their productivity and happiness. Now, when I was a job title at company XYZ, however, there was little margin for error, which required me to opt for a more authoritative leadership style. I had to limit input from stakeholders and clearly define rules and processes to keep my team out of harm's way. I was considered bossy and cold in some situations, but overall, I was able to breed goodwill. I don't say I've never led people in the past, I don't know my leadership style, or I'm not a born leader. There are many leadership styles, of which some you can surely use in your answer. I don't say that you have an authoritarian, autocratic, or military leadership style without explainable reasons. Candidates that only mention this leadership style will leave interviewers to doubt. Don't limit your answer to only a participative leadership style. Although this management style has many advantages, it inhibits swift decision making and increases the likelihood of conflict. Do share a real-life situation that helps the interviewer identify your leadership style. Ask beforehand, do you want me to provide an actual example of a moment I've done this? Do remember that leadership is not a one-size-fits-all skill. You can explain your default leadership style and how you apply different leadership strategies as the situation demands. Okay, question number 36. What is your management style? I believe that my default management style, if I have one, is a democratic or participative approach. When I was a job title at company XYZ, I noticed that this style increased productivity, overall group morale, and the input of ideas and opinions were important in the decision-making process. However, I assess the situation and team before I choose my management style. At my most recent job, for example, my team experienced tight deadlines and there was little margin for errors. In these circumstances, I tend to adopt an authoritative management style. Now, don't say that you've never managed a team before. Even if you have no working experience, you still need to come up with a story or narrative about a situation in which you took the leadership role. Now, do match your managerial qualifications to the job description. For example, if it concerns a position in information technology, then a delegative management style is often preferred. A marketing team, however, usually requires a more collaborative approach. Alright, question number 37. How do you prefer to be managed? What has worked well for me in the past is having a manager or supervisor who is reachable, patient, and who sets out clear objectives. This style of management suits my personality. I also think it's important that a manager facilitates a collaborative work environment where colleagues can share thoughts and ideas that actually influences the decision-making process. So once my share of the project is done, I actually prefer a laissez-faire management style so that I can work independently. This is because I enjoy taking responsibility for my own actions, and I enjoy receiving credits for my own results. Now, do frame negative experiences as learning opportunities, and don't share your crazy after-hour drinking experiences with previous managers. These non-work related topics are most likely exciting to you, but can leave a bad impression. Okay, question number 38. How do you motivate your team? What works in this type of business, correct me if I'm wrong, is leading by example. I believe that tech-savvy employees need a hard-working, technically inclined manager that understands the industry. In the workplace, however, I set objectives and milestones per employee and create a shared vision to stimulate common interests and a sense of shared purpose. This approach works best in my opinion. I also noticed that a simple compliment, positive feedback, or just saying, "We can't do this without you," can brighten up someone's day. I believe that a feeling of being valued and appreciated is what motivates people. Don't start off by saying a company should hire motivated people in the first place. There's certainly a grain of truth in that sentence, but they seek a candidate with a hands-on mentality. So what are you going to do to motivate their team, increase morale and productivity? Now do adjust your answer to the company culture, workplace, and people you will manage, just like I did in the example. Okay, question number 39. How do you define success? I define success as a journey, not a destination. I enjoy the process of short-term wins, because I know that it leads to major accomplishments in the long run. I define or consider short-term wins as quantified achievements on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. At my previous job, for example, our team consisted of motivated individuals that were hungry to meet the daily sales targets and cheerful when achieved. In a particular year alone, our team managed to register 530 customer accounts and contributed to a 96% positive feedback in a client satisfaction survey. And that's what I define as success. Without these short-term measurable goals, it would have been difficult to track or share progress and keep everybody motivated. As a job title, I find it important to identify exactly what it is you will see, hear, and feel along the way. Now, don't talk about religion or spiritual beliefs unless it matches the company culture. But you should remember that many employers and employees don't share the same values and beliefs. In addition, don't share your political views or opinion about policy responses to, for example, COVID-19. Don't give a long-winded or tedious answer. Briefly encounter the point that you want to make without leaving the impression that you already achieved the pinnacle of success. Also, don't say things like winning the lottery or laying on the beach sipping pina colada. This can be considered as shallow or superficial. Now, do understand what the company defines as success by thoroughly reading the job description and the company's mission and vision statement. Incorporate the company language and some keywords in your answer. Also, do explain and elaborate that you view success as a journey, not a destination. It's a valuable trait for happiness and ultimately leads to major accomplishments. Okay, question number 40. How do you build client relationships? Actually, it comes quite naturally to me. I'm intrinsically interested in clients' their career path, culture, hobbies, wants and needs. It certainly makes it easier to customize my services when you genuinely care. Besides that, I carefully listen and document what clients value, so I can build a solid client rapport. So when I was a job title at company XYZ, for example, I made sure that I knew every client's name, their interests, and purchase history. I incorporated the most important pieces of information, which proved to be effective. I managed to build long-lasting relationships with over 100 clients in the industry. Now, don't use sentences like, "My clients can rely on me," "I deliver over and beyond expectations," or "I will go the extra mile." Without context or examples, these are meaningless to the interviewer. Now, do provide an answer that is short, concise, and to the point. Being an effective communicator and active listener are the personal traits why this interview question is asked in the first place. Also, do research about the company and customer base before you go to the job interview. Do they provide services to corporate or private clients? What about ethnic diversity? These are questions you should know the answer to. Okay, question number 41. How do you handle criticism? Actually, I think I can handle criticism quite well. A recent example of this was when my former manager at company XYZ criticized one of our product designs. The pressure was high because the project was by order of a major client. He explained that my work did not match the client's brand identity. I listened to his criticism, took note, and examined the possibilities to improve my work. I then went to several senior product designers within the department and requested for advice. I kept the dialogue open with all stakeholders involved and scheduled a meeting to present the final result. Now, the presentation was well received and my manager complimented me for making the necessary adjustments within such a short notice. The project was approved by the client and is still implemented to this day. Now, what I've learned from this experience is to not take criticism personally, even if it's not offered in a friendly manner or supported by specific examples. I see it as an opportunity to view things from a different perspective and improve performance. Don't tell the interviewer about a situation where you fled, blamed, or accused the critic. These fight or flight responses are bad for working relationships. Also, don't let the emotional side get the better of you when answering this question. Stay rational and reasonable. Do pay attention to your tone of voice. It's important to maintain a calm and peaceful tone. If you find that difficult, give yourself enough time to breathe in and breathe out. Do provide an answer that is truthful and professional. It doesn't really matter if you haven't experienced criticism on the job or acted poorly in the past, at least to a certain extent, as long as you describe what you would do differently or how you will respond in the future. Also, do make a distinction between criticism you've received from a client, a coworker, or employer. Your approach depends on the source. In the case of a customer complaint, you listen, emphasize and satisfy the customer with the best possible solution. When your coworker is the critic, you paraphrase him or her and try to understand the criticism. If you don't understand it, you can ask, "Can you give me an example?" But if the criticism is coming from your boss, you rationally assess the criticism, request time to follow up, and see it as an opportunity to improve your performance. Okay, question number 42. How do you prioritize your work? As soon as I get to work, I start with a daily to-do list using Trello and categorize each task using the Eisenhower matrix, also referred to as the urgent important matrix. Like the name suggests, it's a simple yet effective tool for sorting out less urgent and important tasks. Once finished, I message and/or meet up with those involved to ensure my schedule meets my colleagues' and other stakeholders' expectations. What I've learned in my previous job, though, is that priorities can shift unexpectedly. Therefore, I try to limit the number of daily tasks, so I can easily adapt to unexpected situations and still meet all of my deadlines. Now, don't say that you work harder, longer, or do whatever it takes to get the job done. Key here is to show that you understand the importance of prioritizing to work efficiently and effectively. Now, do show how you organize your day using to-do lists, and explain how you deal with unexpected shifting priorities. Alright, question number 43. What makes you stand out from others? Well, as I understand it, you're looking for someone with 5 or more years of working experience using WordPress and WooCommerce. Now, besides my proficiency using the open source CMS and plugin, I'm actually an active contributor to the WordPress community and attended several WordCamps. As part of WordPress's core team, which is on voluntary basis, I regularly write some basic code, fix bugs, and answer questions on the support forums using Slack. My username is name, and I've answered more than 100 questions since a particular year. I think that my experience and affinity makes me stand out from other peers. Now, don't bash or talk negatively about your peers. That will only make you appear as someone that is unkind or unpleasant to work with. Also, don't choose generic phrases like "I'm a hard worker," "I'm a perfectionist," or "I'm a people person," unless you can substantiate your answer with a unique story. Now, do refer to prior achievements or results and explain which of your transferable skills could help their company achieve similar results. Okay, question number 44. Tell me something about yourself that is not on your resume. So, I attribute my sales performance to my competitive nature and genuine interest in consumer behavior. In my spare time, I like reading self-improvement books, such as Getting Things Done by David Allen or How to Sell Anything to Anybody by Joe Girard. I value the process of continuous improvement. Currently, I'm reading Robert B. Cialdini's book, The Psychology of Persuasion, to learn more about effective sales strategies to further improve my sales performance. The ability to influence customers into saying yes to something to which ideally they would have said no is a great motivator and gives me a sense of personal fulfillment. Now, don't reveal inappropriate amount of detail about your personal life. You should not stray too far from those skills and traits that are relevant to the job role. Also, don't ramble or blurt out whatever comes into your head. Take a moment to think about your answer. Now, do share intangible strengths that are not on your resume. For example, being intellectually curious, having good follow-up skills, possessing empathy and self-awareness, etc. Also, do share a sincere and authentic answer. So don't sum up your strengths, but try to engage the interviewer by sharing an honest answer to give a sense of your personality. Okay, question number 45. What 3 things are most important in your next job? So there are several things that I'm looking for in my next job. The first one that comes to my mind is the ability to work with coworkers that are eager to teach and learn new things about a certain topic. I'm a self-motivated person, but I like the challenge and idea of working alongside like-minded professionals. Growth potential is another important thing. I would like to leverage my skills and experience that I built over the years, and therefore I need a job where I feel the support to grow professionally and personally. I also value companies that are passion-driven and always looking for new opportunities to expand. Now, don't come across as a self-centered person. A self-centered person is always looking for what he or she will get out of the situation and is usually primarily focusing on salary compensation, bonuses, or other rewards. Do come across as a self-oriented candidate. Those who are self-oriented make informed decisions that satisfy their own wants and needs to achieve personal goals. It is actually completely fine to provide an answer that proves that you take care of yourself. Okay, question number 46. How would your previous manager describe you? I think they would describe some positive qualities of mine. Let me give some context first. So as a sales assistant working in retail, I had to cope with various situations on the work floor. However, on one particular day, a couple staff members were absent, which left us short-staffed on a busy Sunday. I took immediate action by taking on extra responsibilities. These include, but we're not limited to, managing the cash register, solving problems in the stockroom, and liaising between customers and coworkers. Now, this is just one example among many challenging situations that occurred at Store XYZ. So I'm quite confident that my manager and colleagues would describe me as an assertive, hardworking colleague that remains positive during stressful and challenging situations. I've actually attached some references that support this description. Don't say that you don't know or that you are not sure. And do improve the credibility of your answer by referring the interviewer to some recommendations you've received on LinkedIn or some other references that you've obtained over the years. If you can't actually back it up with references or recommendations, then you can say that your answer is based on casual discussions you've held. Okay, question number 47. What would you change about yourself? One thing that I would like to change about myself is to stop spending too much time on the details of a project. In my previous job, I was often called a punctilious person because I polished and scrutinized the work for errors and subjecting it to the highest standards of quality control. Now, this might seem like a strength in disguise, and surely there are positives for being punctilious, but my habits also affected the team's productivity and often resulted in me doing most of the work. That's because I was reluctant to delegate. Nowadays, I'm checking in with myself at regular intervals and giving myself a chance to refocus on the bigger picture. That way, I don't worry unduly and can relinquish my control over to other colleagues. Now, don't mention obvious strengths in disguise and cliches like, I am a perfectionist and sometimes I tend to be too hard on myself, or I'm kind of a workaholic and sometimes I push myself too hard. Don't say that you don't want to change anything or that you've never thought about it. That will only prove your lack of self-awareness and self-improvement. Also, don't point out or emphasize a weakness that will certainly affect your performance on the job. For example, if you seek a position in sales, you don't want to inform the interviewer about interpersonal weaknesses. At last, do prepare for self-improvement interview questions. Think about a genuine weakness and how you will turn it into a strength. But you can also start with the strength and inform them how you would like to leverage that skill. Okay, question number 48. If you could have any job in the world, what would it be? I would eventually like to become a true expert and master as a job title in the industry. However, I do know that such a job requires a high level of stress tolerance, skills and experience. Therefore, I plan to immerse myself in this position, understand areas that can be improved on, and really get to know the ins and outs of the business. My plan is to really enjoy the process and short-term wins for long-term success. Don't pick a job that is unrelated to the open position, unless it's a side job. For example, students usually combine school and a part-time job to earn some extra income. Also, don't mention a specific company you would like to work at, but describe your ideal company in general terms. And don't mention any competitors. Now do focus on the journey, not the destination. Explain which skills and what experience you first need to obtain before you can land your dream job. That way, you will come across as a self-motivated candidate who is staying for the long term. Okay, question number 49. Are you a team player? I definitely consider myself as a team player. Do you mind me giving an example? At company XYZ, I was assigned to collaborate in a 10-person team to work on a seasonal marketing campaign. Each team member had a different background and skill set, which really contributed to a synergistic way of working. I really enjoyed the daily scrum sessions and the effect it had on the team spirit and performance. Each team member was committed and worked towards a shared goal. And as a result, we launched a well-performing campaign on the company website that reached more than an X number of visitors by the end of the season. Don't say that you prefer to work alone. In nearly every position, from entry-level to managerial roles, there's always some sort of teamwork involved. This can also be a project where team members only meet once a month to update each other on the progress. Also, don't say that you like to work with others when your body language indicates otherwise. As a general note, it's important to sit up straight and maintain appropriate eye contact. Don't fold your arms, fiddle with your fingers, hair or clothes, because that will only make you seem uncomfortable. Do provide an example that proves that you are a team player. Explain how you've actively contributed to a team, attended meetings, and that you experienced enjoyment in doing so. Alright, question number 50. Can you work independently? I surely can work independently. In fact, I prefer working alone when necessary, because in some kind of work situations, I don't need to be constantly reassured of my work. For example, in my previous job, I had projects that required individual efforts, where focus and concentration was important to meet deadlines. However, some of the projects, like Project 1 and Project 2 you can see in my resume, required group collaboration to facilitate idea generation and creativity. I really enjoy these kind of group projects, and I believe that better results can be accomplished when everyone is pulling together. Now, don't limit your preference to either independent or group work situations. You will disqualify yourself because most jobs require both. Do provide an example that proves that you can work well in a team atmosphere, as well as take on individual responsibility. Explain the advantages and disadvantages of each approach. Alright, awesome that you're still watching. We've just passed question number 50, which means that we are halfway. Now, just in between, if you still need to make a cover letter or resume in either Word or Google Docs, then I would certainly recommend you to watch my other videos. And if you want to save some time, you can also download matching resume and cover letter templates. You can find the links in the description. Alright, let's continue. Question number 51. How would you describe your work style? I would describe my work style as logical and detail-oriented. I take the time necessary to do my research. I don't buckle under pressure or succumb to stress. When I do make a decision, I put all my effort into making the right decision. I never have to go and redo work twice, because I usually get it right the first time. I'm much more efficient that way. Now, don't talk at length in a confused or inconsequential way. It's key to analyze the job description, company website, media kit, and social media channels before you go to that job interview. That way, you will get a better idea of the work style that is most valued at the organization. Also, think through some work style related questions before framing your response. For example, do you set goals and review the results? Do you perform the hardest tasks first? Or do you enjoy group collaboration? Okay, question number 52. Do you ever take your work home with you? There are times when working from home is inevitable. For example, at company XYZ, I had to collaborate with coworkers working in different time zones. I made sure to stay on top of my own personal workload, but every once in a while, we had to collaborate outside working hours to finalize the projects. Although I don't shy away from taking work home with me, I try not to make it a habit. I spend time up front creating a timeline for myself to ensure that I can deliver on time. That way, I remain organized, which decreases errors, improves my productivity and overall work-life balance. Now, don't distinguish good from bad. There is something to be said for both working overtime and leaving in a timely fashion, so try not to give a negative answer to one way or the other. Do know the company culture. It's important to do some research and find out more about the shared values, mission and vision, attitudes and practices that characterize the organization. That way, you can emphasize some working attitudes that align with the company values. Okay, question number 53. How do you want to improve yourself in the next or upcoming year? So, next year I would like to improve my interpersonal skills by attending more industry-specific events and conferences. That way, I can build a professional network and meet like-minded professionals that give me new energy, ideas, and knowledge that I can apply in this position. The industry is a rapidly changing environment that already requires constant self-improvement. For example, previous year, I had to familiarize myself with Software 1 and Software 2 outside working hours. It certainly boosts productivity and helps organize group projects, but unfortunately, it reduces human interaction. Now, don't ramble about minor resolutions or annoyances. The interviewer is looking for a thoughtful and positive-minded answer. You may highlight a weakness as long as you inform them about your plan on progressing and improving it over the course of next year. Now, do try to focus on professional and work-related improvements. That way, you will come across as an ambitious candidate who wants to take on more responsibilities and move your career forward. You can also address a personal priority, but trying to keep it relevant to the job role. Okay, question number 54. What do you do in your spare time? Well, I spend most of my days in front of a computer, so in my spare time, I enjoy going out for a run in Central Park. Actually, I'm using this smartwatch to track my progress and follow a keto diet to lose weight, so I'll be prepared for the New York City Marathon next month. I'm really curious about what I'm capable of achieving. I also like to read self-help books focused on productivity. Currently, I'm reading Franklin Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, to learn more about personal and interpersonal growth. It's quite remarkable how these books can help me lead my life in a truly effective way. Avoid boring and generic answers, such as, I like to travel, I like to drink with friends, or I like to watch series on Netflix. Without further explanation, these are meaningless to the interviewer. For example, if you like to work out, you can share how many times you go to the gym, if you follow a fitness plan, or perhaps you do cardio for an upcoming marathon. Now do promote the conversation between you and the interviewer. Instead of going back and forth, so question, answer, it's important to talk about hobbies or interests that you are really passionate about. That way, you can enhance the interview experience. Alright, question number 55. Why did you choose your major? Now the reason why I chose to major in finance is because I'm really into financial modeling. Besides the intellectually stimulating aspect, I really like to calculate cost-effective ways to allocate corporate resources and decide on budgets. I also noticed that the financial industry is driven by technology. The idea of constant innovation and progress appeals to me and opens many opportunities for career growth. Now don't say, well, I wasn't sure what to do, so I just chose this major. Or, I only had to attend a couple of extra classes, so that's why I pursued a double major. Also, don't say, because of financial reasons. Employers are looking for candidates with intrinsic motivation rather than those moved by rewards. Reason being, candidates that are genuinely intrigued and passionate about the course material are more likely to stay for the long term. Now do show signs of excitement, passion and energy. The interviewer would like to see a spark or that you light up when they ask you this interview question. At last, do emphasize the qualifications that relate to the job requirements. For example, if you majored in communication sciences but are applying for a job in healthcare, then you can emphasize how your somewhat different background contributes to effective communication between patients and coworkers. Alright, question number 56. How do you stay organized? Actually, I'm very organized, and this has definitely come in handy at my previous job. At the beginning of each week, I read through my emails and categorize them using color-code labels. I then review my Google Calendar, set reminders about upcoming events, schedule meetings, and create a to-do list using a different software tool called Trello. There are moments at work when priorities change or unforeseen circumstances appear, but I always do my utmost to adjust quickly and respond to urgent tasks the same day. Now don't sound too rigid or nitty-gritty. It is very important to come across as a flexible candidate who is able to adapt to unforeseen circumstances. Do share your organization and time management strategies. Show that you have a system in place and can manage unforeseen large workloads or tackle hectic weeks. Okay, question number 57. Don't you think you're overqualified for this position? Whilst my background as a job title makes me qualified, I don't feel overqualified for this position. There are many jobs that I could have applied for, but this one in particular appeals to me because of reason 1 and reason 2. I'm genuinely excited to perform the tasks listed in the job description, and I believe that my experience and skill set makes me a valuable asset to your team. Now don't focus on what you will offer. When this question is being asked, it's time for you to reassure the interviewer that you will be staying for the long term. So don't ramble about your skills, qualifications, or experience in the industry. Now do explain the reasons why you are taking a step down. Most interviewers understand that priorities can change in life. Perhaps you seek job stability, less responsibilities, or an overall healthy work-life balance. It's perfectly fine to share these with the interviewer, as long as you provide an adequate justification. Also, do share what makes you excited to apply for this job role. The best way to reassure the interviewer that you are staying for the long term is to share your affinity with their product, service, or brand. In addition, tell them exactly what makes you feel excited to perform the job duties listed in the vacancy. Question number 58. Tell me about a time when you disagreed with your boss. As a job title at company XYZ, I once disagreed with my boss on a contract we were about to sign with a client. I had been negotiating back and forth in the build-up to the agreement, and for some reason, I had a gut feeling they were going to be extremely difficult to collaborate with. Instead of questioning my boss's authority in front of everyone, I asked to speak to him privately. I was open and honest about my concerns, and explained the reasons why. However, my boss stated we were not in the position to turn down clients due to the financial situation the company was in. As a result, we proceeded with the negotiation and eventually signed the contract. Now, it turned out that the client had a drive for detail, but was actually pretty easy to work with. So, what I've learned from this experience is to not make assumptions that are solely based on previous communication. Again, don't speak negatively about your previous boss. Many candidates can't resist it and say things like, "My boss is a stubborn person. He always blamed me and I don't know why." Or, "He never liked me." So Please don't say these things. I can assure you that's a big red flag. Another thing you should avoid is convincing the interviewer about your point of view, or say that your colleagues sided with you. Also, don't become evasive, or say that you've never had a disagreement. If you've never experienced conflict or a disagreement, you can provide a hypothetical situation. At last, do give a specific situation where you disagreed with your boss and explain why. Try to come across as someone with a professional attitude and provide a rational explanation about the situation and how you handled or diffused the disagreement. Okay, question number 59. How do you deal with conflict in the workplace? Oh, I actually handle it quite well. A recent example of this is when I was working as a job title at company XYZ. I reached out to a prospect via email without knowing that my coworker had already been in contact. Once I closed the deal, I was confronted by my coworker who was clearly upset. To alleviate negative emotions and understand my coworker's perspective, I started asking questions. I apologized for the inconvenience and I arranged a short meeting later that day to check the CRM and see where it went wrong. So apparently, my coworker forgot to log the activity, so I was unaware about her interaction with the potential client. She understood it was a genuine mistake and we decided to share the commission. Now, what I've learned from this situation is to so-called move past positions. Often the position is, this is my client, or this coworker is impossible to work with. So to resolve this specific conflict, I had to put effort into understanding my coworker's perspective, check the CRM, and offer a reasonable solution. Now don't say that you've never experienced conflict in the workplace. Do pick a situation where you solved the conflict and came to a positive outcome. Do state that just simply listening is one of the most effective ways to deal with conflict. Okay, question number 60. Can you tell me about a time you had to give difficult feedback? Sure. So, as a floor manager at store XYZ, I noticed that one of our employees started frequently coming late to work. Instead of broaching the topic in front of other co-workers, I asked to speak to him privately. I addressed my concerns about his lateness, because it didn't line up with his usual punctuality. I also explained that his behavior violates the company policies and decreases the team's work ethic. He acknowledged the issue and explained that his work-life balance was disturbed due to family illness. So, for the time being, I adjusted his schedule and he promised to notify me in advance. Don't say that you feel uncomfortable when giving difficult feedback. Supervisors or managers don't flinch from emphasizing the importance of company policies and team morale. And do provide an example that shows your constructive and positive side. For example, you can start with something positive about the individual before you address your concerns. Key here is to be specific, not vague, and avoid excessive detailing. Question number 61. How do you feel about saying no to a client with unreasonable requests? So, I recently had a client that purchased product X, and he was under the assumption that a particular set of applications was included in the price. The request to implement some additional features to the initial package would have cost our company $1,000 extra on a $5,000 product. Although I want to say yes as often as I can, I had to say no and disappoint the client. However, I offered a free monthly trial and 10% discount on product Y. I also informed the client that I would bring the request up the next board meeting to see if we could consider the addition down the line. Don't show signs of annoyance, edginess, irritation, or other behavior that is fueled by emotions. Focus on the reasoning and logic. Do provide an example that shows your de-escalation techniques. These include, among others, being empathetic and non-judgmental, ignoring challenging situations, and keeping a neutral tone and body language. Okay, question number 62. Tell me about a time you wished you handled a situation with a coworker differently. So when I was a job title at company XYZ, our team hired an intern to reduce the workload. Over the course of 4 months of the intern's employment at our company, I was occupied with my own work and did not give the intern the attention that I should have. As a result, one major project that the intern had been working on took twice as long as it should have. I also found out that the intern was going through a very tough time combining work and study. So what I've learned from this experience is to be more attentive, even during my work peak times. An internship should be a professional learning experience, and my task was to offer regular feedback and help the student develop and achieve learning objectives. Don't blame your coworker. Many candidates say things like, perhaps I should have done things differently, but if my coworker wasn't ignorant, the situation would not have happened. Do focus on your part of the equation. The interviewer is not interested in whether you are right and your coworker wrong. You need to show that you take responsibility, regardless of your coworker's behavior and actions. So explain how you've handled the situation and what you would have done differently for a better outcome. Question number 63. How would you deal with a difficult customer? Well, as a sales associate at store XYZ, I've seen customers yell and knock over displays. It's usually the result of inadequate help and slow processes. For the sake of clarity and efficiency, I would first ask the customer to explain the problem, just to ensure that I'm the right person to assist them. Now, if that's the case, I repeat what they say, express sympathy, followed by a genuine apology. I then take the responsibility to resolve the problem, or ask the customer for an alternative solution, and verify with management if it's in line with the company policies. Usually, customers tend to show signs of relief, thank me for my support, and sometimes even apologize for their behavior. Throughout the years, I've learned to stay calm, cool, and collected right from the start. Anger and frustration is usually the result of not being heard. Now, don't complain about a difficult customer. Remember, it's not about who's right or wrong, or your feelings about the situation. It's to examine your professional attitude and approach. Do show how you would handle a customer complaint. Describe a real-life situation where you cover all steps. So open body language, calm and compassionate behavior, how you address customers' concerns and seek common ground, take responsibility, and find a suitable solution. Okay, question number 64. How would you fire someone? Well, I would schedule a quiet space and close the door so nobody can hear the conversation. That way, I minimize the gossip and give the employee the chance to come to grips with the news. I keep the message short, concise, and to the point, so there's no room for discussion. It goes something along the lines of, hey, I want to let you know that today is your last day. As I mentioned previously, we've got the feeling that you are not pulling your weight, so here's what's going to happen next. First and foremost, I want to let you know how much we appreciate the time that you've been giving to the company, and we wish you all the best in the future. It would be wonderful if you could support us in the transition, and if you want, we could provide you with a recommendation. Now, don't show signs of excitement or eagerness. The idea of firing someone requires a reserved tone of voice and courteous attitude, but do show signs of so-called granite-like sternness and monkish austerity. Ideally, you come across as a self-assured candidate that is able to set aside emotions. Question number 65. Are you willing to travel? I'm definitely willing to travel. I read the job description and know that regular business travels are part of the job. In fact, it's one of the reasons why this position appealed to me in the first place. Previously, I spent roughly 50% of the time outside the office. I've learned a lot from direct collaboration and communication with clients in the industry, and these experiences also allowed me to grow my professional network. Now, don't rule yourself out by saying, I enjoy sightseeing, I prefer to stay close to home, or what about travel reimbursement? Last mentioned can be discussed at a later time. Now, don't be fake or dishonest, because that will only cause problems in the future. You'd better emphasize your positive experiences with work-related travel and clearly explain your boundaries. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions, such as, can you tell me more about the work travel schedule? Or, can you tell me more about the average travel duration? Now, do understand the meaning of travel percentage. For example, a travel job with 50% travel percentage requires you to spend half of your working days outside the company's home city. At last, do make a distinction between travel schedules. Some travel jobs require you to travel 2 weeks straight and 2 at home. Perhaps you'll be traveling 3-4 days at a time, returning and repeating the routine a couple days later. Or it's a seasonal job where you'll be spending weeks or months working abroad. Okay, question number 66. Are you willing to work overtime? I am willing to work overtime because I know that the project deadlines are very tight in the industry. I do, however, prefer projects that are scoped and scheduled in such a way that long hours are not a consistent practice. Don't lie about your willingness to work overtime. If you don't want to work long hours, you can focus on your work style and say something along the lines of, I have no problem occasionally working overtime, but a healthy work-life balance is important to me. So during my working hours, I try to be as efficient and effective as possible to achieve my goals. And do research the company culture and industry and frame your answer accordingly. For example, Like I said earlier, working overtime is quite common in the tech and finance industry. In these industries, they need people that are willing to work long hours, instead of being strongly against it. However, be honest and upfront in your response, or else this could cause problems in the future. Okay, question number 67. Are you willing to relocate? Now, if the answer is yes, you can say something along the lines of, I'm absolutely willing to relocate for the right job opportunity. And I'm convinced that being a job title, doing task 1 and task 2 in location, is definitely that. It's my ambition to work for a global company, to further grow my professional network in the industry, explore and adapt to new environments. Now, if the answer is no, you can say, I'm very interested in this position. However, I can only work remotely at this time because of a particular obligation and/or a liability. Certainly, relocating in the future is of interest to me, but it's unfortunately not doable right now. If you don't want to answer either yes or no, you can say, I'm happy to consider relocating for this job opportunity. I do, however, need to take schooling, housing, and travel distance to family into consideration. Would this be for the office in location 1 or location 2? Don't say that you can't relocate. Mention the alternatives and/or inform them about the possibilities to relocate in the future. Key here is to show your willingness to work for their company, and perhaps the employer might reconsider the relocation requirement. Do ask for more information if you are unsure or rather not relocate. That way you can rethink your opinion and/or buy some time to formulate a suitable answer. However, don't ask questions such as, how much do you pay extra? Or, can I choose where you move me? Instead, you can ask about the location, terms and conditions. Alright, question number 68. Are you willing to work nights, weekends and holidays? Actually, I'm quite flexible and willing to work nights and weekends. I do know that store XYZ's busiest moments are after 8 p.m. As for the holidays, I would like to have 2 weeks off so I can spend time with my family and friends. And these weeks don't have to be scheduled during the busy holiday seasons though. Now don't ramble or give too many details. The employer doesn't want to hear about your social events or plans for Thanksgiving, Independence or Christmas Day. Unless asked, do know your availability and communicate it clearly and effectively. And if it doesn't match the employer's needs, you need to show your willingness to cooperate and compromise. Okay, question number 69. What is the name of our CEO? Is that supposed to be a trick question? Well, your CEO's name is name, surname. And I actually know quite a lot about him. I recently read an interesting article in the journal with a detailed description of his personal life. His commitment and perseverance to build a brand is really admirable. Now don't act jovial or in a light-hearted manner. Now this question might seem trivial, but the interviewer is actually curious if you are able to conform and adapt to the core values and collective behaviors that make up the company. Do your research and show genuine interest. For example, you can highlight some positive things you read or ask the interviewer some questions about their CEO. Keep in mind that good questions show that you are engaged, and active listening stimulates an interactive conversation. Alright, question number 70. What do you know about our company? So, I know that company XYZ is a medium-sized research and development technology company. You specialize in AR experiences and have special object recognition and 3D modeling software that can identify objects based on their size and shape. From carrying out my own research, I read that you've collaborated with some leading brands, such as Company X and Company Y. Your quality-driven support makes you stand out from other competitors, which is one of the reasons why I find this job so compelling. Now don't focus merely on the company culture. As an outsider, you can't give an accurate answer on this topic. However, if you've been in contact with an insider and know some of the shared values, goals, attitudes and/or practices that appeal to you, it's possible to briefly mention it. And again, do your research. Use Google search, visit the company website and read the company's annual report. Find out more about the product or service that they provide, the projects that they are working on, the industry that they are active in, and what differentiates them from the competition. You can think of lower prices, better service, reputation, brand image, or different products. Alright, question number 71. What did you do to prepare for this interview? Well, I spent a couple hours browsing through your website, social media channels, and annual report. I've gathered some interesting information about your company's most recent activities and core product. As you can see, I've also printed the vacancy and underlined some of the competencies and daily tasks to get a better idea of what the job entails. I'll be more than happy to share my findings and potential contribution to the job role. Now don't give an unconventional answer. Like, I didn't prepare because I have confidence in my communication skills. I've done quite some interviews, so I don't really need to prepare. Or, I'd rather not prepare to avoid sounding scripted or rehearsed. So do show that you've made an effort. Explain that you've thoroughly read the job description and researched the company. Inform them in greater detail about your findings and sources. You can also tell them about the new shirt that you've bought for the interview, or that you left early to make sure that you would arrive on time. Alright, question number 72. What makes a great team? It must have all the features of a good team. These include, among others, effective communication, clear objectives, accountability, trustability, etc. But it's the things per meeting underneath that makes a great team different to simply a good team. Do you mind me giving an example? So, in my previous role as a job title, I was part of a successful marketing team that month on month reached its promotional and growth goals. Our hands-on and supportive manager played a significant role in this success. He scheduled team meetings twice a week, encouraged us to come up with new creative ways of improving our marketing campaigns, gave us confidence to push hard as a team, and was always the last one leaving the office. Now, don't simply list the qualities of a great team, but provide context. And do speak about a constructive team culture. Provide an example where team members are encouraged to be creative, work hard, and interact with each other. Okay, question number 73. Why do you want to work in the public sector? So, I believe that the public sector, in particular your agency, allows me to serve the people in this area and fulfill their wants and needs. It's a different approach than private companies that operate for profit in the market. I am also well informed in government policies and would like to be responsible for making sure that our district's infrastructure remains in pristine condition, and that way we can ensure our community's safety and keep location easily accessible. Now, don't talk negatively about the private sector, because they may get doubts about your previous actions or behavior and are afraid that you will do the same at their agency. Do focus on your ambition to make a difference in the community instead of focusing on the perks. The employer wants to hear a foundational reason to why you chose for this governmental job role. Alright, question number 74. Why do you want to work in the private sector? So, in the private sector, it's possible to find companies of all shapes and sizes, with different company cultures. Now, the idea of tangible objectives and recognition for achieving results appeals to me greatly. Currently, I'm looking to establish a career in a more agile and dynamic working environment where I can build on my existing programming skills and develop at a quicker rate. Don't speak negatively about the public sector. For example, don't say civil servants are lazy and lack accountability, or government jobs are poorly paid. Do speak in a positively manner and say things like, it appeals to me that career growth is related to performance. Or you can say, the private sector offers greater access to training programs and learning opportunities. Okay, question number 75. Why do you want to work for this non-profit organization? Well, this organization has been very successful in the past, and I want to contribute to your mission, spread awareness, and perform task 1 and task 2 as efficiently as possible. In addition, the prospect of meeting diverse people from various backgrounds and experiencing different situations makes me feel excited. I do understand the day in and day out encounters that I'll be facing in this job role, but I'm convinced that my hands-on mentality and emotionally stable personality can handle these challenges. Don't show signs of opportunistic behavior. In general, working for an NGO is a great way to build your CV or network with high managers and influential people. However, don't overemphasize the benefits that come along with this job opportunity. Do share your fundamental reason for applying for this job role and NGO. Give the impression that you are following your passion and that you want to profoundly impact society. Okay, question number 76. Why do you want to work for a startup company? So in general, the entrepreneurial nature of a startup and unique experience to build something from the ground up really appeals to me. As a keen user of software, I believe that startup XYZ has a great potential to accelerate growth. And I'm thrilled about the prospect to contribute and to be part of this success. I've already noticed many like-minded, talented and hardworking people around here. It's exactly the positive energy, passion and excitement that I need for my personal and professional growth. Don't overemphasize your excitement to chill in the beanbag, play ping pong or try the self-made organic latte macchiato with caramel flavors. Instead, say that the typical startup environment and informal work style increases your productivity and efficiency. Do explain in greater detail about the things that make you feel excited about their startup company. You can say, for example, I'm a keen user of your product because of, and then you mention a reason. Or, I've had the opportunity to speak to your colleague, and then you mention his or her name, and his or her description about a particular topic excites me. Okay, question number 77. Why is there a gap in your employment? Well, after a number of years studying at University XYZ, I took a sabbatical year to visit industry-specific events, meet new, like-minded people, and further educate myself on a particular subject through online courses. For example, I've immersed myself in learning the ins and outs of topic 1 and topic 2 listed in the job description. I'm actually really excited to put my knowledge into practice and contribute to your company's objectives. Do inform them what you've learned or done for re-entry and be honest and transparent. Keep in mind that recruiters are information gatherers. Now don't inform them about any negative personal experiences. Okay, question number 78. Would you lie for the company? Well, I would do what's best for the company, as long as it is lawful and in accordance with the company guidelines. One thing I'm sure of is that I would never lie to advance personal or business goals. I believe that when there is no integrity, then there is no loyalty. I strongly believe that honesty is the best policy. Now don't beat around the bush, meaning that you need to get to the point. If you don't know what to answer, you can ask a question in return and say like, can you give me an example situation? Now do avoid a simple yes or no answer. It's better to not choose between two values. Instead, provide a proper and positive statement that covers all bases. Okay, question number 79. What other companies are you interviewing with? If the answer is no, you can say something along the lines of, actually, I'm not interviewing with other companies. I'm in the early stages of my current job search, and I'm genuinely interested in this job opportunity. I want to see where this goes first. In fact, I think this position is a particularly good fit because I can leverage my experience working with software and develop my potential and interest in a particular subject. If the answer is yes, you can say, well, I do have a couple of interviews scheduled with technology-focused companies like yours, and if you want to, I can keep you updated on that. However, I'm genuinely interested in this particular position at your company because of reason 1 and reason 2. Now you don't need to reveal names of other companies or employers. And don't show off the number of interview appointments. Okay, question number 80. What do you really think about your previous boss? Well, my previous boss was stubborn as a mule, but a man of his word. Although I prefer to work with people who are more flexible, I've learned a lot from him about how to effectively communicate with colleagues that are not pulling their weight, and how to efficiently manage and monitor the workload of our team. Now, we surely had our differences, but we both chose to focus on performance rather than personal habits. Don't reignite old grudges. For example, don't say, my former employer is completely unqualified to run the business. Or, my previous boss was disrespectful, and that's why I'm here seeking a new job. Such a response speaks volumes about you, and not your former boss. Now do reframe negative experiences and share what you've learned from them. You can also provide a well-rounded answer by highlighting both positive and negative traits about your previous boss. Key here is to show that you are thinking objectively and have an overall positive attitude or vibe. Okay, question number 81. How long do you plan on working for this company? If hired, I plan on staying with the company for as long as we get mutual benefit from our working relationship. The prospect of working for such an innovative and reputable company in the industry makes me feel excited. I'm also confident that my skills and experience will add value to your team and daily operations as listed in the job description. In conclusion, my intentions are to stay for the long haul. Now don't give a lengthy explanation of your future plans. Different job titles or slightly different career interests may give the impression that you tire rather quickly of the open job role. Do explain in greater detail which or what job and company characteristics encourage you to stay for the long term. Okay, question number 82. What is one negative thing that your previous boss would say about you? So, if my previous boss would say one negative thing about me, then he would probably say that I'm forgetful. I once had forgotten about an important Zoom call, even with reminders. I felt embarrassed that I didn't respect his time as I should have. Ever since, I use Trello and Google Calendar to stay organized. I also changed my default reminder time to 2 minutes instead of 10 minutes. I personally found that being notified 10 minutes before a meeting really doesn't do much because I might forget about it, especially when working from home. Do mention one negative thing that can be fixed, corrected, or improved on. Show that you are not embarrassed about your shortcomings, but that you actually welcome improvement. You are proactively working on whatever weakness you mention in your answer. Now, don't avoid answering this question. At first, it might catch you off guard, but you should not avoid talking about a difficult topic. The interviewer will most likely notice that you are holding something back, and as a result you might come across as dishonest or not transparent. I don't give an obvious strength in disguise. For example, my previous boss would describe me as a workaholic, or my team would say that I'm a perfectionist. Okay, question number 83. Could you have done better in your last job? In the beginning, it was a learn by doing experience, and mistakes were inevitable. There was probably something that I could have done better, but nothing of any major consequences really comes to mind. Perhaps, in retrospect, I could have been more productive, but I certainly wasn't as refined as I am right now. Self-help books like Getting Things Done by David Allen and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey really helped to brush up my productivity skills. I've learned some smart and logical techniques to prioritize and boost productivity. Have you read some of these self-help books? Don't go into detail about a problem that led to major consequences. It's not the place to confess all your shortcomings, because then you will only cast yourself in a negative light. Now, do show signs of self-awareness and self-improvement, and try to make the conversation interactive. Mention some well-known tools and techniques, and ask if they know them as well. Okay, question number 84. Why have you changed jobs so often? Well, it's important for me to stay with a company as long as there is mutual value, where I experience personal and professional growth and my contribution helps the company in return. I am convinced that win-win situations are most important to achieve goals and long-term working relationships. I've looked into your company and thoroughly read the job description prior to submitting my resume, and it appears that this job opportunity carries more responsibility. Now, I believe that my skill set and prior experience could greatly benefit Task 1 and Task 2 listed in the job description. Now, don't go into details about each individual position and employer. Do provide a short summary of the whole situation. And if possible, integrate some references to convince the interviewer that you are not fleeing a bad situation. And at last, do explain that these experiences contributed to personal and professional growth. Question number 85. What would you do if you won the lottery? Are we talking about winning millions of dollars or just a few tons? Is it tax-free? Okay, good. I would pay off my leftover student loan, mortgage, and put away some money for retirement. And I would also allocate a percentage of my winnings to those less fortunate. Next, I would take several months of work, go to the Netherlands, and visit Amsterdam, as well as many other interesting sites in Europe. After my so-called Euro trip, I would return back to work to stay occupied. And in my spare time, I would attend a flight school to eventually earn my private pilot license. Don't say you would head off and relax at the beach for the rest of your life. They seek candidates that are in whatever circumstances motivated to learn or gain experiences in the chosen career field. And don't provide generic answers, such as, I would like to travel, or I would like to learn new skills. These answers lack context and don't spark interest or contribute to an interactive conversation. Do explain in greater detail your genuine interests and ambitions. The interviewer wants another glimpse into your life and thought process. Okay, question number 86. It's kind of a weird one. If you were an animal, what would you be? If I could be an animal, I would be an orca. They are able to work independently or in groups, called pods. They hunt in strategic fashion and prove to be highly organized. They communicate using specialized local dialects and deliberately teach hunting techniques to their calves. Have you seen this video where orcas use a wave technique to hunt seals? This kind of sophisticated cooperation is amazing. Don't pick an animal with obvious bad qualities, like a snake, a sloth, a skunk or a rat. And do pick an animal with obvious good qualities, like a horse, a dog, a dolphin or a monkey. For example, if you are working in a team, you can pick a dog because of its loyalty and ability to complete tasks on command. If you're going for a managerial position, you can also pick an eagle, since this animal is independent, strong, patient, and an eagle gets the bigger picture from higher up. Okay, question number 87. Tell me one thing about yourself that you wouldn't want me to know. Honestly, I've LinkedIn stalked all of your profiles for several hours before showing up to the interview. It's weird, I know, but I'm genuinely curious about others' background stories and what makes them tick. Or you can say, I don't know if you noticed, but I've changed jobs quite frequently within a short period of time. Now, I don't want to come across as a job hopper, so I rather avoid talking about some of my previous roles. However, I strongly believe that each and every experience contributed to my personal and professional growth. Now, don't mention anything related to emotional, physical, or mental exhaustion. Although it's human to feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, or unable to meet demands, you shouldn't mention it during your job interview. It's very important to keep it positive and lighthearted. You can also mention something you used to be weak in, but developed over time. Alright, question number 88. What kind of personality do you work best with? So, as a job title, I've worked with many different types of people. And to be honest, I get along with all of them, regardless of their personality. I like to embrace diversity in the workplace, because different personalities can complement each other's strengths to forge effective and efficient collaboration. Don't describe a single personality type that you enjoy working with. Most jobs require teamwork and collaboration, with many different personalities. Do express how you get along with all types of people, regardless of their personality. Focus on the benefits of complementary personalities. For example, it can reduce friction in a team, or it can create a dynamic and positive working environment. Okay, question number 89, and this is a classic one. Sell me this pen. Alright, so can I assume that you are in the market for a pen? That's correct. For personal or business use? Business. May I ask what kind of work you do? I'm an account manager. Alright, so you probably use pencils to sign important documents, like sales contracts, company checks, and perhaps also employment contracts. Is that correct? In a nutshell, yes. Now, these are significant moments that, in my opinion, require a quality pen that lasts a lifetime. Sorry, but I'm not going to buy a pen that costs $100 when a $1 pen does the job. Well, I believe that a $1 pencil doesn't resemble your status. This quality pen is made of mahogany wood and stainless steel by a reputable brand. I'm sure some of your major clients will know this. That's a good point, but in actuality, I don't sign that many contracts. So it's a bit over the top, don't you think so? Well, if you don't use it very often, it's still a great collectible item. You can display it on your desk or in a display cabinet, or perhaps you merely look after it for the next generation. I must say, you're a good salesman. Or it's just a wonderful product. Imagine that your relatives inherit this authentic and classic pen that you've closed deals with. I never thought about it like that. So do we have a deal? Now do ask one of these questions right off the bat. Can I assume that you are in the market for a pencil? Or do you actually need a pen? Also, do follow up with questions that reveal the customer's wants and needs. How often do you use a pen? What kind of pencils do you use? Do you use them every day or occasionally? Etc. Don't instantly highlight the functions, features, and benefits of the pen. Show that you understand that in most cases, people buy because of emotion and justify with logic. That's why you first need to listen and ask questions before you start selling. Do come up with a story or narrative to evoke emotion. Remember that people seek gratification and have a strong desire to belong to something. This can be a family, a social network, etc. Okay, question number 90. What is your current salary? Well, I'd rather keep this information private, since employee salaries are considered to be confidential at company XYZ. However, if we move forward in the hiring process, I can provide you with a wide salary range. Or if you feel comfortable sharing the salary for this position at your company, I can confirm or decline if my current salary is within that range. I hope you understand my situation. But you can also keep it short and concise and say something along the lines of, I'd rather keep this information private, but I would like to earn in between A and B. Now, you'd rather not exchange somewhat confidential information, like your current or previous salary. It's actually none of their business, and if you share it, it shows your lack of integrity. Do research the salary range by title and location using the internet. Question number 91. What are your salary expectations? If you don't want to share your salary expectations right away, then you can say, well, at this point, I need to know quite a bit more about what the job entails and the responsibilities that go along with it before I can give you an accurate answer on that. However, I will consider any reasonable offer. Question number 92. Then what do you consider as a reasonable offer? Well, that depends on the salary range for this position at your company. I mean, you're in a much better position to know how much I'm worth to you than I am. Okay, question number 93. Can you provide me with a wide salary range? Well, based on my qualifications and knowledge in the industry, I would consider a reasonable price range in between the X and Y dollars annually, depending on details. Okay, question number 94. How does an annual starting salary of $45,000 sound? Okay, so first and foremost, thank you so much for the job offer. I want to reiterate my excitement for this job opportunity. Now, before I accept the offer, I do want to address the proposed salary. Based on my expertise in a particular topic and current demand for developers in the market, I would actually consider a reasonable salary around $55,000 annually. Is there anything you can do to increase the number? Alright, well, I will have to talk to my manager. There are no guarantees, but I will see what he says. So my manager said that the best we can offer is $48,000. Okay, thank you for taking the time. Well, I've carried out some research and I'm fairly confident that the average salary range for this position in this area is in between $50,000 and $60,000. Although I genuinely believe that I'm worth the upper end of $60,000 based on my demonstrable experience and skill set, I do understand that this has to work for you too, that you don't know me and I need to prove to you my worth. On that basis, I would be comfortable with a salary of $52,000. Unfortunately, $52,000 doesn't really work for us. We can do 50 and give you an additional 6 days PTO. Does that sound good? Thank you so much. I really appreciate you going to bat for me, and I'm glad to accept this offer. So, what are the next steps in the hiring process? Now, with these salary-related questions, you don't negotiate if there's no leverage. You can propose a fixed number or a salary range, but after that, it's better to wait for a response. And if their counteroffer doesn't meet your expectations, you'd better decline the offer and thank the interviewer for their time and effort. Do contribute to a win-win situation. So instead of making demands, it's better to ask questions and support your answers with proven skills and experience. Remember to stay positive and try to be composed. That way, you keep the tension and stress out of the negotiation. Okay, question number 95. When can you start? When you can start right away, you can say, let me see. I have a flexible schedule. When do you want the position filled? Or you might need to give a couple weeks notice at your current job. Well, I need 3 weeks to ensure a smooth transition. Would the week of the 10th work for you? Maybe you want a break in between jobs. I have some previously scheduled commitments. So my ideal start date is, and then you mention the date. Now, if you need some time to relocate, you can say, since this position will require me to move to location, I will need some time to make the transition. I would be happy to negotiate a start date that works with our timelines. At last, if you are not sure you want the job, you can say, I've got several scheduled commitments for the upcoming weeks. Can I email you tonight? Or, I need to check in with my current boss. Can I contact you tonight? Don't be too eager or accommodating. You certainly can show your excitement, but you should avoid, at all costs, sound desperate or immature. Do show that you use an agenda and timeline, and that way you will come across as punctual and well organized. At last, do be honest and straightforward. The interviewer doesn't need to know about your upcoming honeymoon, renovation, or when you need to feed your cat. So give a short and straightforward answer that shows your availability. Okay, question number 96. Is there anything else you would like us to know? If the interview has gone well and you have nothing else to add, you can say, actually, no, I believe we covered the most important topics. I'm really glad that we had the chance to meet and talk about my background and the role. What's next in the process after this? Or, thanks for asking, but I don't have anything else to add. I believe we covered the most important topics. It was great learning about the position and company XYZ. If you can add something positive that the interviewer didn't ask you about, you can say, yes, actually, I don't think we covered a particular topic, but I have a couple of years' experience in coding that I think will serve me well in this position. I will be able to anticipate questions and concerns that users come across and improve processes for solving user issues through a particular software. I feel like that's something that makes me stand out, so I want to mention it. Or you can say, yes, I just want to clarify a previous answer concerning my skills in, and then you mention a field of expertise. During my college years, I gained some organizational experience by volunteering at campus events where I developed event strategies, assembled teams, managed logistics, and marketed events. I feel like these experiences, even though it's unpaid work, might serve me well in this position. Now don't feel obliged to share something. Do clarify a previous answer if necessary. Okay, question number 97. Do you have any questions for us? Actually, I do have a question. And then you can ask some of these example answers. As for the conclusion, you can say, "Thanks for giving me this opportunity," followed by something nice about the interaction. Don't ask questions that can be answered by a simple yes or no. Also, don't forget to thank the interviewer for their time and efforts. And at last, do send a thank you note on the same day or the day after. Alright, question number 98. What to say when you cannot answer the interview question? Example answer number 1. Buy yourself some time. So first you repeat the question and then you say, "Well, that's a great question. I've honestly never thought about that. Let me think back for a moment. I definitely remember a time when," followed by the answer. Or, "That's a difficult question to answer. Can you rephrase or explain what you mean by X? Just so I can make sure that I understand it correctly." So I guess I would say that, followed by the answer. Example answer number 2. Focus on what you know. Honestly, I have never been in a position where I have had a particular situation. However, I do know that, and then you focus on what you know. I am thrilled about the opportunity to learn more about, and then you mention the thing you don't know. Or, actually, I've never used software XYZ before, but I've heard it's a great tool to perform task 1 and task 2. Personally, I use XYZ software because of its responsive interface on both mobile and desktop. Example answer number 3. Use follow-up email. That's a complex question. I'm sorry, but I don't know the answer to that question. As soon as I get back from the interview, I will dive deeper into a certain topic, because I genuinely want to know how to do X. Once back at home, you do some research and send an email that looks somewhat similar as this one. Don't ramble or mumble, but share with the interviewer how you think, process, and solve problems. It's understandable that you can't answer all the questions, but you need to involve them by thinking out loud. That way, you avoid awkward silences and involve the interviewer. Now do buy yourself some time by repeating the interview question and by asking the interviewer to explain, define, rephrase, or clarify the question further. That way, you can also make sure that you understand it correctly. At last, do focus on what you do know, instead of saying, "I don't know," or "I am not sure." You want to think about something similar that you are familiar with, and then you can use that in your answer. Okay, question number 99. What is the most important thing to say in a job interview? Alright, so before we end this interview, I just want to let you know that I really want this job. I've got the qualifications and motivation to perform these tasks listed in the job description, and I'm very passionate about doing this kind of work. It's the perfect opportunity for me, and I just wanted to let you know. Don't choose an unprompted statement when you know that there are not many other candidates applying for the job role, or when you already feel that the recruiters are going to offer you a contract. Now do use an unprompted statement when you know or notice that there are many qualified candidates, or when you are underqualified for the position, so you can compensate your lack of competence with passion. And then we arrive at the final question. Question number 100. How to reduce job interview stress. So there are many general tips like make an interview cheat sheet, use your stress as adrenaline, reframe how you view the event. Now all of these tips can be useful, but I believe that the most effective way of reducing job interview stress is by using Wim Hof strategies. Like he says on his How to Relieve Stress page, you can regulate your stress levels using a combination of breathing exercises, exposure to cold, and commitment. Now exposure to cold, like taking cold showers, increases endorphins, the feel-good hormones, and decreases cortisol, the stress-inducing hormones. And abdominal breathing, so the breathing exercises, helps you to control your nervous system, and it encourages your body and brain to calm down and relax. So on the day of the job interview, or even days, weeks or months before that, I want you to take a cold shower and practice Wim Hof's breathing exercises. I've made the perfect 10-minute guided breathing session that will instantly help you reduce job interview stress. Alright guys, we've covered 100 interview questions and answers. Let me know how the job interview went. Give me an update and tell me which of these interview questions you had to answer. And again, if you think a Q&A requires improvement, don't hesitate and leave a comment with a better or improved version down below. And that way we can help each other succeed. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video. Bye!